right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Business and Brews show. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and tonight I am going to be interviewing Miss Leslie, and she deals with insurance. So we'll be right back after this.
Welcome to the Business and Brews podcast, where our mission is to highlight local businesses in the Triangle area and shed light on different industries.
All right, perfect, Miss Leslie. Welcome to the Business and Brews show. First, I want to start off by saying thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. But Leslie, if you would, really quick, briefly tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Leslie McMillan. I own LSM Insurance. I focus on working with individuals for their health, life, dental, disability, vision, accident policy needs. We work with the ACA, which is the Affordable Health Care, and other various options.
That is awesome. So, once again, thanks so much for being here, Leslie. We are sponsored in part by Trek CBD. So Trek CBD is actually Trek CBD focuses on a journey to wellness. And Nick is a really awesome guy. So he might actually be reaching out to you because he loves to network. And so their store, if anyone is watching and hasn't been to Trek CBD, there's one in Wake Forest, one in Holly Springs. Of course, there's one in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a little bit of a drive for me, so I like to stay a little bit more local. But yeah, they're awesome guys. I really love Nick. He's very knowledgeable, super awesome guy, and a lot of stuff to help with anxiety, sleep problems, pain management, stuff like that, especially when it comes to CBD. So awesome guys, really good when it comes to networking. But Leslie, I know before we went live that you were talking a little bit about the cider that you had, and I'm a huge fan of cider.
I brought my brew to the Brews, Business and Brews.
That's awesome. So what kind of cider is it? I'm definitely a cider fan.
It's a Myers lemon sparkling seltzer with hard cider.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hard seltzer, I think.
So Leslie, I'm
pretty good.
That's awesome. I'm super excited about this because we've actually only had like one other person involved in insurance on the show before. So I'm pretty excited about this episode and what we're about to talk about. So I'm definitely curious. I'm always interested to talk to people about who they are, how they got started type deal. So I know you've been doing this at least for a minute or two. So if you would just, how did you, Leslie, how did you get started in insurance? How did that journey begin?
Well, thank you, Ryan. First of all, I want to thank you for having me. And I want to thank my family for being on the podcast tonight. I started, I always like to say I started when I was 5. So it's been quite a journey. I started a long time ago. I have been working in the health insurance, my entire career pretty much. I started with Blue Cross Blue Shield in Massachusetts. And I started with selling HMOs, health maintenance organizations, when everyone thought they were HBO, because HBO was coming out at the same time. As time went on, I met my husband. I moved to Washington, D.C. We lived there for 20 years. I worked for several consulting companies, including Aon and some other companies that are no longer in existence. And then after 9/11, we decided to come south to North Carolina. We wanted to change the scenery for our daughter, who was about 5 years old, and I've been working out of my house for the last 15 years. I have offices, and before COVID, people used to come to my house and meet with me on a regular basis. And it worked out great. And I got to raise my daughter and also work. And 15 years later, it's been quite the journey, and it's been interesting, challenging, and very rewarding.
Nice. That's awesome. So you were like an original home office.
I was.
That's fantastic. So according to Zoom, we may run out of time, but that's okay. If we do, we'll restart. Doesn't matter. So yeah, Leslie, you're in insurance. You know, I know there's some very specific questions I want to ask. You know, how this specifically applies to me really is because my mom is someone who is older, and you know, one of her primary concerns has always dealt specifically with, like, I guess you could say the perception is if the employer doesn't supply insurance, then I don't get insurance. And I know that's not true. So before we jump a little bit deeper, could you talk a little bit about how, you know, just because, you know, your employer doesn't supply insurance doesn't mean that you don't necessarily get coverage. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, if your employer offers insurance, of course, that's something that you obviously should definitely consider. A lot of times back since the Affordable Care started in 2014, a lot of smaller employers have stopped offering insurance. So that means that you have a couple of different choices to getting health insurance. You can get health insurance through the Affordable Health Care, which is also called the ACA, which is also called Obamacare, which is also called healthcare.gov. That is one option. Another option is to buy a short-term medical plan. There's also some other types of plans that are called sharing plans. So there's definitely different options. The key, though, is that you need to be aware that there are rules as to when you can buy health insurance, especially from the Affordable Health Care or healthcare.gov. We just finished the annual open enrollment, which starts November 1st and ends on December 15th. That's when anyone who does not have health insurance can get on healthcare.gov and apply for a policy and not be denied, even if they have health issues.
That is crazy. That's a lot of info, like, especially for somebody like me who doesn't know a lot about insurance. That's pretty fantastic. So this is good information, Leslie. So I think I'm good diving a little deeper now. Like I said, if we happen to run out of time, I think it'll cut us off. I'll just recreate the meeting, so don't worry about that. But
Okay.
I'm super interested. So basically, of course, like, you know, I could just go get insurance. I feel like it's kind of like car insurance. You know, I go out, I get car insurance, like I've got coverage. One thing I found, especially when it comes to like car insurance, is that at the end of the day, I could end up paying more on a premium, on a monthly premium, just because it's like I can't possibly shop all of the providers. But so I think when it comes to the type of stuff that you deal with, why, you know, should someone use a broker instead of shopping for themselves?
Well, I think that the first thing I can say is that my slogan is bringing clarity to confusion, because I think that unlike auto insurance, which basically has a deductible for collision and also for accidents and such, there's a lot of different pieces and moving parts to health insurance. There's the deductible, the out-of-pocket, the co-pays, the maximum out of pocket, and then the various coverages. So the reason a broker is helpful is because I've been doing this for a long time. I know the carriers, I know the plans, because there's actually affordable health care. There's probably about 45 plans in a region from the different carriers. And as I often say, the devil's in the details, because you can see a plan that might be affordable, but if you were to drill down into that plan, you're going to find out that you've got a huge deductible before anything's covered. And a lot of people don't realize that when they buy coverage. They go, oh, I'm going to buy the thing that's the least expensive program. Yeah. And then when they go to the doctor, they go, what do you mean it's not I don't get to go to the doctor without having to pay the bill?
That's crazy. I think that's an interesting piece of information, because coming from the Army, that was something that we didn't deal with a lot, because we just kind of went and then that was it. Of course it was, healthcare was always paid for in one way or another, but it wasn't something where we had to worry about it out of pocket. So by the time you transition, it's like, now I'm out of the Army. How is healthcare handled? What are the different types, not only that I have access to, but what do I need to worry about? So, I guess, Leslie, what specifically when it comes to options, because a lot of times when people make purchasing decisions, they like to think about options. What are the different options that you offer specifically?
Well, I think that you were talking about having come out of the military. With the Affordable Care Act, there is a lot of different rules, because there is no what we call pre-existing conditions. So that means that if you go on the affordable health care and you have lost your health insurance at work, you're coming out of the military and you're not going to be getting health insurance through the military, you've turned 26, you have what we call a special enrollment period, which is about 63 days long. So you get about 2 months from when you lose your health insurance to buy a plan through the Affordable Health Care or healthcare.gov. You can then buy a PPO, a point of service, or an HMO, and they each have their own deductibles, and those deductibles and those plan designs are set by the government each year. And the Affordable Health Care has it does offer you maternity, it offers you mental health, it offers prescription drugs, but there is a price to pay because it does cover all of those things. So there are 2 times you can get health insurance through the Affordable Health Care. The first time is during that open enrollment I mentioned earlier. You can always buy health insurance. If you are getting have a certain income level, there are subsidies that might be available, which is one of the things that I review very carefully with people. The other piece is that if you lose your health insurance through work, you become, or if you have a qualifying event, you move into the area. Those are things that will allow you to buy health insurance without any waiting period. And one of the things that's the healthcare.gov, the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminated waiting period. So if you're coming from a company or you move into an area and you have cancer, they can't turn you down, which is what other companies used to be able to do. They call that pre-existing conditions. Now, because of healthcare.gov, that is no longer the case if you work within the rules that are set by the government, which I will help you to find out if you can. And that's one way. Another way is a short-term medical plan, which is more of a catastrophic program. That's available to you all year long. And you can buy that if you can answer 6 health questions, like you don't have cancer, you don't have a pre-existing, and you don't have any major ongoing health issues, like you're taking 3 or more prescriptions. I find a lot of younger people who find the Affordable Health Care program to be expensive, like the short-term medical plans, because it's a very simple plan. It has a deductible, and then once that deductible is paid, you're going to get coverage for the rest of that contract period.
No.
So, but it's about 40% of what a healthcare.gov plan would cost.
That's crazy. That's a lot of information. I like it. I think a lot of times, people in different situations don't necessarily think about stuff like that. I think we have less than a minute before we get cut off. It's gonna be a brief interruption, possibly. Zoom has a little bit of a time limit for the free plans, and I guess I just didn't necessarily prepare for that. So let's see what we can do to mitigate this. Bear with me for a moment, folks. 1 second while we go back and try to create another meeting. Let's see here. Huh? All right. See about adding people back to the Zoom. It's a song I wrote. It's not a big deal. All right. Let's see if we can get her to hop in again. And that's me. You are welcome. What happens if I do that? There's two of me. Look at that. You get to watch me on two different screens. I bet that's super boring. Like, everybody joined in to watch the Business and Brews, and now they just have Ryan on screen with a microphone. And it's like, that's not what we came here for. So I am waiting for Leslie to hop back in. The room will ding. There we go. And I'm going to admit her. There we go. All right, Leslie, can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Let me rearrange my screen real quick. And I think we were talking about insurance, but I could be wrong. So there we go. I'll put it right there. Nope. My mouse is not cooperating.
There we go.
We'll roll with that one a little bit, I guess. Okay, perfect. So, Leslie, I think we were talking about... that's a really good question. So basically, having been in the military, you get hurt, you go to sick call. It's not a big deal. So... once somebody gets out, and this is something a lot of service members and veterans don't really think about, is why do I even need health insurance?
That's a good question. A lot of people think that, especially when they look at the price per month, because sometimes the price can be bigger than your mortgage. frankly, depending on the situation. So I understand that and I appreciate that. But on the other hand, there's so much free care out there. So if you're in the hospital and you go to the emergency room, they do have to go ahead and patch you up to an extent. But if you have a heart attack and you're not somebody who's on the lower end of the social, economics, medical bankruptcy is one of the largest problems for families that have jobs that are middle class or even higher. And if they don't have health insurance, those bills can be quite high. Cancer can run in the hundreds of thousands. A heart attack can be 70,000, if not more. And then ongoing health care, because we don't live in an acute, everybody, the way I like to put it is we don't die anymore. We go on drugs.
Yeah.
And so those drugs keep us alive, but we may need to see the doctors on a regular basis, and that can get expensive. And the prescriptions are another piece. Those prescriptions can be very costly.
You're telling me. I've often seen times where the prescriptions sometimes at face value come with a heavy, not just a heavy price tag, but an inconvenience, so to speak, in comparison to what benefit they offer and what they could offer. So
yeah, well, I mean, there's that whole argument about doing natural things versus taking a drug, and I get that. I think that's really important for each individual to consider. I do want to say that there is a great website out there called goodrx.com.
Oh, nice.
And it is a great website. You can add it to your smartphone. And if you're getting let's say you don't have a health plan, or you don't have prescription drug coverage, or you even have a high deductible for prescriptions, you can put that app on your phone, and it'll actually, you put the name of that drug in the app, and it'll tell you 4 or 5 pharmacies where you can buy it for a discounted price.
That's awesome. That's
called goodrx.com.
That's amazing. That's especially good for people that need to stick to a budget, especially when it comes to healthcare. I have actually used that. I got a prescription because I had to have I like to say I had to have a tooth ripped out of my head, but my dentist is like, no, don't say that. He's a good dude, excellent dentist that I go to, but I did have to have it removed, and it was exceptionally painful both before, during, and after, at least for a period. And so he wrote me a prescription, and his receptionist told me about GoodRx, and that's when I went to use it. And I'll tell you what, man, I paid next to nothing for that prescription. I was really happy about that. That was awesome.
And it's interesting because sometimes it's cheaper than what the insurance company says they're going to charge you.
Yeah, right. But they got it figured out, so normally, Leslie, when I think about healthcare and health coverage, to me, someone slightly uneducated when it comes to healthcare, it's probably pay money, get health coverage. So what options are there, or what other options are there when it comes to traditional health coverage, and how do those options work?
Well, as we talked about already, Ryan, there's the affordable health care, and there's Blue Cross, which everybody knows. There's a couple of other companies, and they're all regional. There's in North Carolina and Wake Forest, in the Wake County area, there's a company called Ambetters, and there's also a company called Bright Health. There's Cigna, and there's United Healthcare. They all have their different takes on the coverage options. And then there's the short-term medical plans. United Healthcare offers a short-term medical plan, National General, and then there's some other plans out there. One of the things I would have to say is that you have to be careful, because the lower the cost does not mean that it is it's necessarily the best coverage. And I don't mean that like a snob. I just, or, buy my products. I mean, you got to be careful because it might sound good, but if it's not necessarily a company that's going to give you, pay your bills, basically, when you have a health issue, that's a problem. So, I do tend to stay with the more traditional coverages. I do offer a really great accident plan that will pay for accidents. It's just simply a bank of money. You can get anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000. And if you have an accident, you go to the doctor, the hospital, or the emergency room, and it's an accident. The doctor says on his accident report, it's an accident. Wow. They'll pay your bills. So I just had a client who said, you know what, I'm not going to buy health insurance because I can't afford it, but I'm going to buy this accident policy so I know that if I'm hurt on the job and it's an accident, I've got some money to pay those bills. And that's it's not the best option, but it's better than having to go on a payment plan.
No, I think that's super important. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an interesting thing. It's like, maybe I can't afford or don't really care for traditional health coverage, but there's this whole other thing, that's something that could protect me and take care of me in any case. And I deal with those accidents. I think when it comes to Leslie, somebody like me who was in the military and I got out, that cost associated with getting health care or coverage can be significant. So it can be a little bit of a gut punch, so to speak, like, oh no, I got to pay for something I wasn't paying for before. So why what is it that makes health insurance so expensive?
Well, that's a great question. And unfortunately, the people in Washington, D.C. don't want to hear from me, but I'll give you my 2 cents. I think that part of it is the cost of drugs. I think you've probably seen the drug Humira on TV. That drug itself, it's a great drug, but it's $5,800 a month.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So for some people have employer plans, those they might get it for a copay or such. But for people that don't have any health insurance and aren't economically challenged necessarily, they're paying those bills. That's one thing. And it's just, I don't mean to pick on Humira, it's a great drug, but there are drugs that are, Eliquis is like $500. If you see it on TV, it's probably at least $400. If they're putting an ad out there and you see it, it's probably a drug that costs by month about $400 to $1,000, $400 to $1,000, if not more. That's one thing. And because the other thing is that we have so much great medical care, we also have a lot of liability. So because of the liability and people suing the doctors, there's a lot of malpractice costs, which is another kind of insurance. Well, that gets put into the premium for the health insurance. So that's another thing. Yeah. And then there's a lot of requirements by the government as to what kind of coverage you can't. If you've got a coverage, you've got to have a certain amount of coverage, like you have to have with the healthcare.gov, you have to have maternity. In the old days, you could take maternity out of the coverage, but you can't anymore. And then there's no benefit for people that are healthy. There's no discount for health insurance because they're healthy. There are some plans that are there that you possibly could buy because you're healthy, but there's no discount for that. those are kind of some of the things that I would say have to do with the cost of health insurance. That's
interesting. I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't think about. You said the people in Washington don't want to hear from me. It's so true, though. It's like oftentimes we don't necessarily take stuff like that into consideration. So, I think one thing, because I've got several different type of coverages myself, Leslie, and so something we don't think about, or I didn't think about, when I was going to buy health insurance and stuff like that, is, the timeline. So can you talk a little bit about it, and a little, I guess, expectations when it comes to someone buying health insurance? Like, what does the timeline look like? Well,
as I mentioned, the open enrollment for the healthcare.gov marketplace, which is for any individual anywhere in the country, is November 1st through December 15th. You can sign up either directly through healthcare.gov, or you can use someone like myself to help you evaluate your options. Your coverage starts January 1st of the following year. That's one timeline. The others is if you move into the area, or if you turn 26 and you're no longer on your parents' plan, you can get a plan through healthcare.gov, but you have to do it if you use one of the qualifying events, the special enrollment periods. You have to do it within 63 days. So if you're 26, you want to start talking to somebody or start looking at that probably at least a month before, so that you can be covered as of the first day that you would lose the coverage, because you basically have a policy. The coverage ends as a certain date because you've lost your job and you're not going to have health insurance, or because you moved into an area. That's the trigger date. So you want to try to do it before that trigger date so that you have no lapse in coverage. Because if you have a collapse in coverage of more than 63 days, you have to wait till the next open enrollment period.
Wow.
Now, with short-term medical, you can buy it the next day, but it's not as comprehensive coverage. It's more of a catastrophic plan.
That's interesting. It's so good to know, Leslie, that there's people like you out there, because, I don't know the first thing about this stuff. That's one way of putting it, but, I am definitely a guy who's like, I'm good. I know all the answers. Like, I'll just go buy health insurance. And it's like, you bring up this stuff, these rules and limitations and things to think about. And it's like, oh, snap, it'd be smart to negotiate the course with someone like you so that I make sure to get what's necessary and helpful. So
I would say that one person said to me, Leslie, I'm a smart person, but I get a headache trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
So that's a normal response, because there's so many pieces to this. And I think that it's always helpful to have a broker, myself or someone else, health insurance broker, that can guide you. Because even if you buy it directly from Blue Cross, or you talk to someone from one of the carriers, they're going to sell you their products.
Yeah.
They're not talking to you about anything else. They're not necessarily evaluating the comparison. So whether you're buying an under 65 Medicare healthcare plan through the ACA or short-term medical, or you're turning 65 and you need Medicare coverage, it's good to work with a broker, because they know all of the different carriers. And they can help you, because you really want to evaluate the doctors, because there may be a network, either an HMO or a PPO or a point of service network, and your doctors may not be in it, because a lot of these plans are regional. And there's plans that will give you Duke and Wake Med, but won't give you UNC. and then the other way around. So, and those are all over the country, that's the case. So you need, by having a broker who doesn't normally charge, we get paid by the carriers, you can have some assistance that makes it, bringing clarity to confusion. Helping you make a decision that's informed as opposed to just saying, I'm going to pick that one.
No. That's crazy. I like it. I think it's very helpful, especially considering the importance behind it. And, not just health insurance, but, life insurance as well. So, I mean,
especially now,
when it comes to that, Leslie, life insurance specifically, how do I know how much life insurance to get? How much do I need? And
generally, people use a rule of thumb of like 5 to 10 times their income.
Okay.
Or what the cost of their house is, or some derivative of that. There are forms you can also fill out with someone who's a life insurance specialist that can help you to evaluate your debt. Because if you have debt and you have joint credit card debt, that doesn't go away. If you're both on that credit card, your spouse ends up with that debt. So there's some things that you need to be aware of. And, I think that these days life insurance is really important, especially in light of COVID, because none of us are definitely guaranteed anything. And they're actually not, you can buy life insurance and it can be surprisingly affordable. You work with somebody that can work within your budget. I mean, you don't have to buy this huge $1 million plan. You can buy a plan for $50,000 or $100,000. Nice. Older people can get it for a smaller amount because as you get older, it does get more expensive. So buying a plan when you're younger does have its merits because you're gonna pay for it for a longer period of time, but you're actually paying less because one, you're younger, and number two, you probably likely have less health issues because when you have health issues, it does cost you more. Life insurance will cost you more.
It's good to know, and I think some good information. It's definitely something I didn't consider when I was looking for life insurance.
If you're a single guy and you don't have any, a lot of, responsibilities to other people, life insurance is a nice gift you can give somebody if you want to pay for your nephew's college if you died, something like that. But, young families with children, people that have children with special needs children that might need to have some money set aside for them, people that have interest in saving money for retirement. Those are all reasons to look at life insurance.
That's good information. That's definitely something to think about. A lot of times we get caught up in life and it doesn't really matter what's going on when it comes to the life insurance. Like, I don't think about things like that. So, Leslie, I know you talked about life insurance. We talked a little bit about health insurance, but can you touch a little bit on all the different products that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, there's health insurance, and I am, somebody is pretty knowledgeable. I've been doing this since I think I said to you earlier, Ryan, I've been doing this since I was 5. I've been doing this for a while. I've been in business here in the Raleigh area for 15 years, worked out of my house. I do a lot of screen sharing meetings these days and help people walk through the various options with a Join Me or a Zoom call. Yep. We evaluate their options. So we've got the medical, the short-term medical, the accident plan, which is really great. We also have life insurance, and I work with over 50 different companies. And because of who I work with an affiliation. I can actually kind of find a carrier that would work for you. Somebody who's got diabetes may not find that another carrier would help them. But I have all these different companies that I can go to and say, hey, are you interested in looking at this person? And, a lot of times I'm able to get coverage when other carriers or other companies have said, no, we don't want to touch that risk. I also have really good dental plans. Dental seems to be very popular these days. And on my website at lsminsurance.net, there's some coverages we offer, and that's up there. But the best thing to do is to call me. I've always got time to go through and evaluate things, answer questions for people. This stuff is confusing, and believe me, sometimes I feel like it's going to sound maybe old, I don't know, but I feel like Mrs. Pac-Man, because everybody's situation is different. Oh. So when I talk to somebody, I have to come up and think about what are the rules in relationship to you. Oh. Are you losing your job? Are you moving into the area? Are you retiring? Do you have health insurance and you just want to say, I'm going to start a business and I'd like to know what it would cost if I lost my health insurance? The other one is COBRA. Should I take COBRA or should I stay or buy a separate plan? So, and there's a lot of different things that have to happen. And I think that it's important to be able to evaluate the situation personally. And that's what a broker helps you do. They help you understand, is vision a good plan? That's another one I offer. Dental, is it worth it? There's some good dental plans out there. But, if you're in a situation where you've only got so much money, which is most of us, you got to decide which is the priority. And that sometimes can be like, maybe it's not a priority to have health insurance. Maybe it's better if you got a lot of problems with your teeth to take that money and put it into your teeth. But on the other hand, it's always a good idea to consider health insurance. I'm not saying at all that that's not what you should be doing, but everybody has a budget. And one of the things that I've tried to do over the last 15 years is be empathetic to people's bills. This is not the only bill, and it can be a big one. So we've got to decide what's the best option and make those decisions, informed decisions, as opposed to just saying, I can't afford it, or this is the only option I have.
Absolutely. I think that's good. I think that's interesting. I think it's very important because, once again, someone like me, uneducated, taking these things into consideration, Leslie, could be, overwhelming and possibly cause unnecessary stress. So to have someone like you who knows what's going on to guide us through the process could be very helpful. I mean that's a lot of what we talk about on this show, when it comes to the professionals in their industry. Leslie, now I'd love to transition to a segment that we call the questions we have brewing. I'm super excited about this. For those who have not seen an episode or listened to an episode, this is where we ask the same 4 questions. I think it's 4 of all our guests, but this is really cool because it spotlights certain things, especially that can help with relaxation.
You're starting to break up, Ryan.
Can you still hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Okay. So Leslie, I'm definitely curious, when it comes to, obviously with insurance, you're not doing that 24/7. So when you're not engulfed,
I feel like I am.
Right? Definitely. So when you're not doing insurance, Leslie, what do you like to do for fun?
Well, I think one of the things that I do is, as a business owner, I'm always constantly looking to help people and understand what's going on. I do a bi-monthly Medicare 101 show on Tuesday nights on Zoom, and that helps a lot of different people. I've gotten great feedback from that because it's helping people that are getting ready to turn 65. Besides the fact that they got the deer in the headlights look that they're turning 65, there's a lot to understand about Medicare. I'm in a women in networking group that, hey guys, that I do Zoom with. These are women, the other business owners, and we do networking. And you mentioned about networking earlier, Ryan, so that's something. I have a dog named Pepper, and
Nice.
I spend some time walking her. She's a great walking buddy. I have a daughter who is 21 at Lehigh University, Kayla. She was on the call earlier.
Nice.
And it's kind of, I got a lot more free time now that she's 21 and in college.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, I do a lot with my church, and I do a lot with trying to help people around that might need some help to get through things, and to spend time with my husband of 31 years, as well as spend time with friends. And
Nice.
that's hard now because of COVID. It's very hard. And so sometimes I feel like I don't go anywhere or do anything, so I officially feel very boring. But it's the way we have to live right now, and I can't wait for everybody to be able to come out and see each other and hang out and have a brew together.
Yeah. No, definitely. Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like, even though you have plenty of work going on, you have plenty of fun going on as well. So that's cool. So Leslie, if you had the opportunity to have a beer with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be?
Well, I think it would be a glass of wine because I'd really like to talk to Jesus Christ.
Fair enough. I like it. There are
And I know he
oftentimes.
drank wine.
Yeah. That's a fact. I think oftentimes we ask that question to folks and they're not prepared. But so far, last week and this week, everyone has been ready for the question. So I like that. So the next one is, Leslie, in today's day and age, of course, there's books, and I'm a huge fan of books for many reasons, but you also have YouTube and podcasts. So the question used to be, what are you reading? But what content are you consuming? And it can really be anything for fun or professional development.
Let's see. Well, my industry has a lot of stuff that they generate that I have to read because I have to be licensed every single year before I can sell certain products. So that takes up some of my time. I love historical fiction, and so I do that. Plus, I listen to a lot of different church services and such because I'm always trying to walk with my faith more. That's something that I really am. I'm a very strong believer of Jesus Christ, and I definitely try to do every day. I have to get up in the morning and try to do a better job than I did yesterday. So it's a work in progress, so to speak, and I just am trying to do the best I can. So I think that I'm also trying to work on my business. So I'm looking at Facebook and Wix, which is the website I work with, and then I started that Zoom meeting because we used to do Medicare meetings in front of people and have like little groups and stuff. And when COVID hit, I had to start and say, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And the Zoom thing, I didn't know anything about it. I was totally new. So when you're in business, one of the things that's interesting is you got to start and you got to try to grow your business and grow yourself. And sometimes you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but I've been in business now here 15 years, and you just got to keep going. You got to keep trying. You got to keep moving forward. And if you don't get something done, or if you can't figure it out, you go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to give it up for the day. But then the next day or 2 days later or whatever, you got to go back and try it again. And my business does take time. It's a lot of work, but I feel like I'm at that point now. Very, very grateful to God and to all my clients and such that I've been able to, and my networking buddies, to grow my business to the point where it is today. And that's taken a lot of time, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears.
That's awesome. I think that speaks volumes, especially when it comes to how much effort, Leslie, that someone's willing to put in to their business. The last question I have for questions we have brewing, and probably the most important question of all, Leslie, is where can people find you? How do people get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me by calling me at 919-271-6898. That's 919-271-6898. They can find me on the web at www.lsminsurance.net. They can find me on LinkedIn under Leslie S. McMillan. And they can find me on Facebook at Leslie S. McMillan Benefits Broker. And, they can also find me with Leslie at lsminsurance.net.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways to find me. And I've been here 15 years. I've been very grateful to a lot of people. I have a lot of referral partners. So there's a funny story about two people were talking to a friend of ours, my mutual friend, and the guy said, I need health insurance. Who would I call? And they both said, me. And I said, oh, well, that says something about the fact that I've been networking out here, doing different things. And I've been very grateful for the reputation I've created. Facebook's been very helpful to me in that respect. I'm on a lot of different Facebook groups. And I couldn't have done it without my friends, my family, and my clients saying, telling other people.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Super important when it comes to small business. I think the referrals and the network, like I said before, Nick will probably reach out to you.
I'll look forward to it.
Fantastic guy, also co-host on our show, How to Build a Business in a Pandemic. So super smart dude, super sharp guy, fantastic. And Leslie, I just again want to thank you for coming on. So now we're going to transition into the After Brews. This is a separate show / segment, so it is not live. And what's great about that is if you guys want to hear all the super top secret squirrel information that Leslie has as it relates to insurance, running a business, and dealing with stuff like that, then you're going to have to tune in Wednesday because we're about to transition into it. And I know last week, my guest, we started talking about local restaurants and breweries. So who knows what we're about to get into, Leslie. It's super laid back. It's whatever we want to talk about. But like I said, if you guys want to deal with that and get into it, then tune in Wednesday wherever you listen to your podcast. So thanks again, Leslie, so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I look forward to whatever we're about to get into.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
This has been